record. All right. This over here. Nope, right here. Okay. So we're going to be talking about lifting state up. Now, I know from the feedback. So, seemed Jerica, props to Jerica. She did a great job yesterday. Feedback was really, really solid. Pace was good from what everyone said for the most part. Yeah, appreciate all the feedback. Now, I know some have been going through the material, going through the material. Once again, I encourage you to learn as much as you want at your own speed. If you feel you have time at night, you're like, I'm going to bang out the additional lectures, by all means, bang out the additional lectures. Like, no one's going to hold that against you that you went ahead and looked at it. But once the lecture comes around, you might be like, I already did this. I kind of know it. So you might kind of like tune out or something like that, right? So what I'm going to propose is this. Let me see. I have another, for anybody that wants a more advanced challenge. There is a kind of 4-part series lab that comes from the React curriculum, the official GA React curriculum. And you're going to build something out in 4 parts, and there requires some refactoring. Much of it is stuff that you've done, and then stuff, if you went ahead in the lectures, if you know how to pass down a method and execute something and pass state up, like what we're going to be doing today, lifting state, that's something you've done, something you looked at. By all means, you could probably go through these. It is challenging. It's not an easy thing. Usually assign them as homework, sometimes in the day class, but that's like 2 hours. Sometimes it takes students 3 hours to work through each part of this. Not an easy thing to do, but if it's a challenge that you were looking for, you could do it. So I'm going to Slack that out. In the end, what you would be producing is, let me just pull it up. It's something similar to this. This isn't the final one because it doesn't have the details over here. But it would be something similar to what you did yesterday. Clicking on a favorite turns into a little heart. We're also going to be doing favorites today as well. Clicking on one of those things and like turning it into a favorite list of songs, right? So we have all the songs, and we're going to have like our fave list of songs. So we can choose from those and add them. So in this instance here, you would be clicking on, so there's an all in faves. These are all the songs that are there. And if I click on this little icon here, it turns from a plus to a minus. It adds it to the faves. If I were to click on faves, it now filters just for the faves. So it's this view. If I click on it again, it removes it from the fave. So there's a toggle going on there. Fave, adds a class, gives it a color. Click on faves, only shows those, okay? There is another part to this. Once again, the solution that I have stopped right here. I kind of thought about this last minute, providing it, and then you would be making a request to like OMDB to pull data, which we will be doing later also. So in the afternoon, we're doing API calls using React. So I would ask at that point in time, you come back to that lecture so that you're firmly understanding of how to make the API calls using React. But if this is something that you wanted to kind of work on because you already went through the lectures and you already know it, by all means, you can do that. Just going to get rid of this. But for everybody else, we're going to be working on these lectures today, where we'll be working with our products table and doing some things with that, our shopping cart, things that you did the other day. Okay? Let me see here. How's everyone feeling about that? If you wanted to go do it, you can, but you'll always have a challenge. So we're going to talk about lifting up state So, yeah. So what is it with state at this point in time? So if I had to ask Jeremy, hey, Jeremy, what state? Hey, I know we're on an interview. Hey, I know you've been working with React. That's great. You just graduated. Awesome. We love it. We love GA. We saw your projects. Can you give me a brief description of what state is in React?
State is like the current state of the data at any given time.
Okay. Awesome. How do you mutate state? How do you change state?
You'd have to use like set state, so you can change the values of each of the different parts of the state.
Okay, cool. And that would be the only way you do it, right?
To my knowledge, that would be the only way you could do it, yes.
All right. And once again, it's kind of like when you were like, well, you could use set state, right? You only use set state. You do not do it. You can mutate state. I can go this dot state dot something and mutate it directly, but that's a no-no. Don't ever do that. Always set state. It's a queuing mechanism that you use. So how about Matthew? If I was like, hey, what's props? What do you do with props?
Props is essentially the same thing as state, but what you can do with it is you can pass it on to other components, like child components.
It's essentially the same thing as state.
It's like an object with properties that you can call upon.
Okay. Lauren, you want to help him out with that? Do you feel solid about that, Lauren?
I don't, but I'm trying to figure out how to help him.
Okay.
Props is a symbol that you can, like, you store information in it, and using props, you can move that information down into children.
Cool. I like that. So down into children, passing something. CJ, do you think you could take that and just give a solid, this is what props are? Convince me of what a prop is.
Yeah, so I'd say a prop is something where it's a variable that we'd had passed down from a parent component into a child component, and you specify it in that like component render line in the parent's render function.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Really, it's just props are how we pass data from a parent to a child, right? And we do it as props, and the construct of props is really kind of like a key value, like a variable definition, right? I give a name, I make it equal to something, and then it passes it down, and it's accessible in the child component as this dot props dot whatever the variable name was, right? Sounds like a more cohesive way to describe what a prop is. Okay, so props and state aren't necessarily the same thing, right? State holds the data. It's what your app is aware of. And props are how you pass that data down to the child elements, okay? So you're used to passing things down, and today we're gonna pass things back up. We're gonna move things up into the app itself, okay? So if we did have these three components, right? So say we had app, and we had this an all things component and a my shopping cart component, okay? We're gonna have a few things, and we wanted to add products to our shopping cart by clicking on the item, okay? So we're gonna have this scenario here, right? And in here, what we want to do is click on, boop, and this would add it over there, right? That's our ultimate goal, okay? Now, there's no way to move data from one sibling to another sibling, okay? We have to go up wherever state is and then mutate state for that state to then pass something back down. Okay, what I want us to do now to like kick this off, because this is something that you've worked on, is go into that directory, into the, should be, right, student examples, yeah, products app. Go into the products app and let's spin up, open a terminal, go into the products app, and let's spin up that server. I'll do it from structure examples. Go. Structure examples. All right, change directory to products app. Start it up, make sure it works. Okay, I already have something. I started that other server that I showed you that had that movies thing, and so React is like, hey, you got another server running on port 3000. Do you want to start it on a different port? Sure, start it on a different port. Okay, so opening it up, and now we have our site, right?
You just did npm start, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there a reason why it doesn't work for me?
Oh, you know what it might be? Here's the thing. Let's take a look. What's missing here? Can anyone tell me what you do not push up to GitHub? What don't you push up as part of your Node projects?
Node modules.
Node modules. So what do you do to get your Node modules working?
NPMI.
Yeah. So if I get out of this, I mean, I already have Node modules installed, right? So if I go here, I've already done it to start it. But if I was to delete Node modules and then run npmi, it would recreate all the Node modules, right? So if I just go here and I'm like, all right, delete Node modules, not a big deal. Move to trash. If I try to do npm start now, this thing would crap out. And if I looked at the message, it would, let's just see, React scripts not found, React scripts not, command not found, failed to, once again, what is it telling me specifically? But Node modules missing right here. Node modules missing. Do you mean to install? I do mean to install. So I'm going to install it. Shouldn't break it. Watch it break it. You might have some problems too. Like I was looking at previous solutions to things, and I tried to do npm install, and based on that version of create React app, because once again, React is like this thing that just keeps changing and changing, it kept erroring out. I mean, it gave me steps to follow to fix it. So I would have to delete the package JSON, delete the a couple of them. I had to delete package JSON. There was a yarn lock file. I had to delete Node modules, do npm install again, and then it would seem to work. But there were instances where things just weren't working. I was like, why is it not working?
Hey, Joe, real quick. Your output looks a little bit different than mine. It says that you have 0 vulnerabilities. I found 68 vulnerabilities, 5 of which are high. And it says I can run an npm audit fix to fix them, or an npm audit for details. Should I try to do an audit fix for that?
I would run it right now. I wouldn't try to fix it right now. I don't want to like break anything and deal with any problems. Once you push it up, obviously here's the scenario. If you push it up and somebody downloads it or it's running online, there could be the vulnerabilities there. If they can get onto your machine, maybe they can circumvent that. I would always suggest fixing vulnerabilities. Like I'm not all about like leaving your machine vulnerable. Right now, you're not vulnerable inside your little home network. Nobody's going to be able to hack you with this one server running. Did everyone get that? Did anyone else get that? I'm just curious. I haven't really seen that on my machine lately, so I don't know if that's something.
I've gotten it almost every time, but the answer last time too was like, oh, don't worry about it right now. But yeah, I'm kind of curious as to what that is, or if there's a way to fix that.
Yeah, what happens is the software, the versioning of the software sometimes is, you know, they found a vulnerability, they patched it, they fixed it, but you still are referencing an older version of the thing. And so that has a vulnerability, and it's trying to tell you, hey, you're using a version that is vulnerable. I get that all the time too from GitHub. GitHub's like, hey, this node package that you have in this project is now vulnerable. What do you want to do? Like I would have to go up and update it. So it would probably like going in a package JSON and then finding out where that thing is and then fixing it, going here and whatever it is. saying I want to do that, or running the tool to fix it. Once again, going up in the versions that fix the security flaw probably won't break your app, right? Any major things might break an older app. So,
Hey, Joe, real quick, I don't mean to stop us from moving on. I was curious, so I ran it. I just wanted to see. It didn't fix anything, and the reason it didn't fix anything is because it said, it talked about like breaking changes. It said one package update for 68 different vulnerabilities involved breaking changes.
yeah.
So,
I'm thinking that it would be, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you did it, it might break things in other things. And without like us going through the whole process and testing that out, it wouldn't be something I would do now to like troubleshoot it, to be like, oh, you got to fix it. Like, I don't know why mine did not. I have not said fix anything at any point in time. So I can't really explain why mine is not doing it, but yours is doing it. Only a handful are doing it. I don't know if it's happening to everyone. But I'm just curious, is everyone able to start their servers? Servers started just fine. So just give me a thumbs up that you started the server. You get the errors, that's fine. Once again, what I would suggest at that point in time, you know, copy the folder, run the tool again, run the fix, force it to fix it, see if it works. If it works, great. Maybe read an article or something on it. Like, I would go read the article too. Like, hey, I got these things. What should I do? Should I do it? I'm a little cautious. I don't really know. For these things, we don't really have to worry about it, right? You could delete it, do a git pull again, get the thing again, run it, get up and running. But, you know, for a production level thing, don't go ahead and start like deleting things or forcing things like that. Okay. Sweet. Looks good. 13, awesome. So we have our app. Our app seems to work. I can click on this stuff and nothing happens here, right? I have this card over here. Nothing happens. If we open up in Atom, right, the app itself, so I can zoom in here, we could see that we have our app.js, right, which is where everything starts. Let's see if I can just expand it a little bit. So we see this. We have our app.js here. We have things like all the things. We have my shopping cart. We're importing components, right? We have our app. We have state. So we're keeping track of our products that we're pulling in, right? Whatever products we're pulling in. We have our render. Render is a required method. We have to run it. That has to return something. And then we are returning, you know, this div of all things. We're looping, right? We're looping through this. What about that index? That index, Jose, that index, that key that is equal to index. Jerica pointed it out several times yesterday. It was spoken about. Several people asked about it. Why do we need that index? Why do we need the key? So we got the message, right? Or warning.
So we can pass through the actual ID of each element.
Okay.
Product.
Do we need that key? Like, would it work without the key?
I'm not sure.
Okay. Once again, I could test it. Watch. I could get rid of that key, right? I could go here, just get rid of the key, save it, right? If I save it, my page refreshes. Look, everything's sweet. It all works. It didn't break, but I get this warning. Each child in a list should have a unique key property, right? It's a warning. We can go take a look at what Facebook has to say about keys. What I would, with the React documentation, which is from Facebook anyway, has to say, what I would also suggest is, you know, the React docs are awesome. Really kind of walk through the process. Go here. You can read through everything in the React docs. They even have advanced guides too that walk you through things. There are so many things in React. It's crazy the amount of information to learn it. And they do talk about you should have a key for everything. They give everything a key. And really what the key does is it helps React identify which item has changed. That's really what it was. Keys help React identify which items have changed, are added, or are removed. And keys should be given to the elements inside the array. It's only an array thing. When you do the looping construct, that's where a key is required. And when I taught the intro to React the other day, I console logged the output of a map so you could see the return thing. It was like all of this symbols of things, right? Of the actual elements themselves. React adds to this thing. It's not just a normal map. It's a map where React sticks its fingers in and it does its thing, right? So the keys are important. They may ask you that on an interview. Hey, you seen this error? What does that mean? And so you would have a better understanding of just saying, that's how React keeps track of it. That's it. No one's going to be like, well, give me more detail. Once again, they might push you the envelope to see what you understand and what you do not understand. Okay? Oh, I just lost. Let me go back. Structure notes, right? Lifting state. Okay, so here we go. So we have our app. We have our app, all things my shopping cart. Once again, I'm just going to confirm that that's there. Here's my app. Here's all things. And here is shopping cart, right? They are components that are being rendered by app, right? So if I take a look here, here's all things, and here's shopping cart. Both of them are children of app. Okay, and app is passing in this, that, what is that? What do we call that in React? What is this construct right there? No? Nobody? Owen, what's that? You know what that is.
You're passing down that as a prop.
Correct, props. That is the construct of a prop. Remember, something is equal to something else, and because it's JSX, and the thing that we're passing down has some sort of JavaScript, and it's a variable, we have to include the curly brace. Key is a prop. We're not really passing key down. We're not really using the key down there, but we're just tying it to the thing now. Okay? Awesome. So we need to get something down to or up to app, because where is state right now? If we go here, and I take a look, state is in the app, okay? So we have state in the app, and state controls all the products. Awesome. And I want to add something to a cart. And what I'm going to say here is, you know, here's my cart. So this new variable that we are going, this new key value pair that we're going to add to state is going to populate this cart. It's empty right now, but we're going to go ahead and add cart as an empty array. Okay? Shouldn't change anything, shouldn't break anything. Always when you save, just make sure this thing doesn't break at all, okay? I don't want it to break on us. I'm just adding the cart. Okay, easy enough, right? When we add the cart, we're doing that for a specific reason, right? The goal is so that we can add something to that cart, and then once we add something to that cart, the cart would be populated here. Okay, so what we're going to do is add a new method. So just going to add some pseudocode. This was, or comments. This was also part of the feedback. People like the fact that we're like adding comments and kind of including some of these notes. So create a add to cart method that will update the cart array with a product. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to create an add to cart method. I'm going to pass it an item of something. And that looks pretty solid, right? Nothing's in it yet. Not calling it anywhere. We're doing something. The first thing that you like to do, or I always like to do, is just kind of say console log. And I don't ever just say like what the variable by itself. I like to say this is item from add to cart. And then I do item. Okay, this is how I like to write it, because in the console, I see where the thing is coming from. I might be referencing several variables that are console logging, and I lose track of what is going where. This helps me stay focused on where it came from. Okay. Now, we are going to add the functionality to push something into the cart. Okay, if we were to get an item, right? So create, now that will update the cart with a product. I'll even add a note using this dot set state, right? Just to give my mind, context. Cool. Once again, we're writing pseudocode. This dot set state. I'm going to go to the next line. I like doing this. I'm going to target the key that I want to see updated. It is an array. And the array, we're going to say, hey, I'm going to add this thing to the very first position and then use dot, 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 this dot state dot cart. Okay? So what is happening here with Christian? What are these three dots represent? What is that in the world of ES6 syntax?
That's the spread operator.
Spread operator, cool. And it was the first thing in the article that Jeremy posted, right? Spread operator was the first thing. For loop was the second thing, right? You got to know the spread operator. There's also another one called the rest operator, which kind of does the opposite. It takes in parameters into a function and then packages them as an array. They're the complete opposite of one another. We don't really have any use cases for that right now. Okay, and then in here, we're just going to console.log and say this is state, right? Or this is, I don't know, cart in state. Once again, I'm just this dot state dot cart. Just putting little placeholders for myself. So we should have this, okay? We go here. Now, I know there's, when it comes to troubleshooting issues, this is what I'm, the agreement I like to have just with like keeping the lectures kind of moving forward. I do want to help troubleshoot. If you type it all out and it doesn't work and you get an error message and I pasted the code, copy and paste it first. If it resolves the thing, then you know it was a typo, right? And it fixes it. What you can do at that point in time is maybe undo it, comment out your code, retype the code or repaste the code, and you can go back and try to resolve it. If you copy and paste and it still doesn't work, then stop and we can try to resolve it. I want you to get used to typing stuff. Typing is going to produce errors. If you do hit a typo, right, just copy and paste it as a first initial, like, all right, it could have been a typo. Let me just see. If it doesn't work, call me. Let's look at the problem. Okay, I'm just trying to find the balance between like keeping the lecture kind of moving forward, working through some of the typos. I do typos all the time, so it's hard to be like, don't do typos. I'm like the typo king over here. All right. Cool. Feeling good. 9, 15, 16 looks good, right? I make sure that there's no errors. Once again, no errors. I always want to make sure that this thing doesn't error out. Any missing anything. I think if I miss that, I'm going to get an error, right? So, hey, it's telling me that at render there is an issue, and yet we know that render is not the issue, but the curly brace before render. So sometimes troubleshooting these things has you looking in the wrong direction, and you're like, I don't know, render looks pretty cool, but it wasn't render. It was the method above was missing something, okay? So know when you see the error where you should possibly look for those answers. Now, the next thing that we need to do here is bind. Bind the method because we are calling set state. Now, we didn't get any error messages here because we didn't execute the method, right? If we were to execute this method right now and do something that called this, we would get an error because it's not bound. It doesn't. What does that mean by binding? Like, what attempt are we making here? So who wants to field that question? Jacob, what does binding do? What's our attempt and why are we going to bind the method here?
When you use this, I think you need to bind it to the app somehow, the component.
Okay.
I just know when you use this, you need to bind it just to
Okay.
that
Okay.
between 12 and 13. That's all.
Okay.
I don't know why.
All right, so I'm going to do this. This is this, right? Oh, we can't run this yet. We haven't run it yet. But when we run it, if we were to run it right now without doing the binding, we would see that there's nothing there. Like this would return. This would be right now without binding. So I would say here, I'm just going to put a note here, without binding, and we'll come back to this. This would return undefined. Okay? With binding, what would it return with binding? It would return what? Anybody know what the value would be if we did bind it? Just in general, high overview.
It would probably say like it can't define property of null or something like that.
Okay. All right. But, oh, no, I'm saying if we did bind it with binding. So this was without binding. This is with binding. So I'll make this really clear. Without, with binding. This right here, what would that return? Molly, what do you think it would return if we bound it and I console log this inside add to cart?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure, honestly. Sorry.
Okay. No.
It would return the app because it would be referencing the app.
Correct, right? It would return app, and then it would have curly braces. It would be like, hey, I'm returning an app class, curly braces, these are the classes, and these are the things, okay? So it returns the thing that you bound it to in this instance. This is important. On one of the interviews that I did go on, they showed me a React component, and they said, walk me through everything that's happening here. Talk me through everything. And so I had to go and say, all right, so here we're extending component, we're inheriting stuff from component. Here's constructor. We need the constructor in order to, enable our state, and we need props because that's kind of allowing us to have access to this within the constructor, and it's inheriting from the parent. There was a binding there, and I had to explain what the binding was doing. So they may ask you just to walk through something. So having this context and them saying, like, what would this return? And you're like, I don't really know. I know I have to do it, but I don't know why I have to do it, right? There's going to be a difference between somebody's understanding, and I can differentiate somebody that kind of knows what to do just to go through the motions and another who knows why it needs to get done, because there's other ways to kind of execute these things without doing the binding. Just putting it out there. We're doing the binding. That's what we do. So doing the binding, right? Let's bind this thing so we can use it. This happens inside the constructor. And we would say this dot add to cart is equal to this dot add to cart dot bind this. All right, I got to save it. Still got the error. Boom, we're back in action, right? So all we're doing is that, and it's going inside of our constructor. It's very important that that's part of the constructor. So if I collapse our constructor, boom, we wouldn't see it. Now we see it. So it's part of that constructor. That's important.
So Joe, what was the answer to the question you asked me though?
Oh, if we did, so with binding right here, right? That was the question that I asked.
I think you asked why.
Oh, so why do we need to bind it? Because of this issue here. Inside of add to cart without binding, there is no context of this. Add to cart has no knowledge of what it is in this. It's almost like it's devoid of this concept. Okay? Similar to that, I don't want to deviate.
Yeah.
Because I know, I've been told I deviate a lot. So without deviating, I just want to do this. Just show something really quick in regards to maybe what this context is. And if I say I had just a function, right? So I'm going to just say, function test. I'm not going to give it anything. I just want to console log this. That's all. I'm going to call the function test. Let's run it. So do you see how there's a bunch of stuff here, right? It knows about something, right? It's like, hey, I'm going to even maybe I'll put a note here and say, hey, this is this, right? And I'll run it, and it should give me a context of something. It's returning stuff, right? So I got a bunch of stuff, right? Without this here, without this message, I get nothing, right? Because the function itself isn't returning anything. But with this thing has a context of this. It has a context of who it is, what it is, or what it's aware of. And it's going up. It's actually going up to globals and looking at other things, right? This doesn't look like what's in the function. It's like, hey, you're a node. So you must be a node. That's the context of this. When we take a look back here at our thing, and if we were to console log this, once we execute it, I will show you that it returns undefined. It loses that context. Like, it doesn't know where to go to find the thing that has this. It itself has no context of this, so it's looking for this. It's like, hey, who's got this? I really need to, somebody just told me to execute something, and I don't know what this is, so I'm going to ask you, right? And there's nobody up there listening. And so when we do this, what we say is, hey, app is like, add to cart. I'm going to give you my context of this. And it kind of imparts upon it this context of this. And so inside app to cart, it's like, hey, anytime you reference this, I'm going to call the big app component, man, because that's what I was just told to do. You don't always need to bind a method, but if the method is making a reference to this dot anything, it needs to be bound, right? Or it needs to be bound if it's referencing state, because it won't know what this means, okay? Can anyone explain why in render we can reference this without any issues? Anyone have any ideas about that? Ian, you have any ideas why this works in render, but it doesn't work in add to cart?
I'm low on ideas about that.
Does it have anything to do with scope? Or am I way off?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with scope.
Okay.
What is the one required method in a component? So if I said, hey, what is the one required method? What is it?
Render.
Render, right? So if render's already required, and React is like, I know it's required, you can't have a component without render, React is probably like, hey, why don't I just do this is solid for you? Why don't I bind it under the hood for you, right? Why don't I just do that? You need it. It's got to be bound if you want to reference this dot state. So why don't I just go out of my way and do it for you, okay? At that point in time, it doesn't know any additional methods that you're going to run that require binding, right? It doesn't know that, but there's going to be a solid assumption that if you're going to pass down state or you're going to pass down props, right? Or this thing has props and it's going to pass it down as this dot props or reference it, render needs to have access to this. So it's just an assumption React is making, okay? That's all it's doing. Cool. I really kind of want to get this kind of locked in of what it's doing, because a lot of the times I think everyone's just banging it through. You kind of know it's got to get done, but you're not really like what's happening under the hood. And if you aren't in an interview, how would you explain this? Okay. And I really want everyone to be able to explain it. So are we good with this? Right now we'll kind of move on to like doing the rest of it. So we want to pass this function down to the all things, the all things products, right? So all things products. So I'm going to go here. All right. So I have all things here, right? And I don't know, maybe the naming convention here isn't like the best naming convention. I mean, we are passing in all things that reference all the individual things. I might have called it something different, but no biggie. What we're going to do here is just a little bit of like, I don't like having things out in some sort of horizontal fashion. I like to have them in a vertical line. It just, for me, makes it easier to add as many of these as I need and to easily view it and see it. Okay? Now we need to pass this add to cart method. It needs to get passed to a child. We will be passing a prop to a child. Now here, the way we're doing it is we're calling it handle add, and we're passing this dot add to cart. Handle is something you're going to see quite often for method names. Handle click, handle submit, handle something. The handle is usually what the thing below it would click on or reference the click event. So anytime you see handle something, just know that that's going to be associated with something getting clicked on. Okay? Add to cart, pretty intuitive. I'm adding something to the cart. So I'm going to go here and we're going to add that. Handle add is equal to, we're going to add a prop, this dot add to cart. Okay? Easy enough. Just adding this one small thing. So this is what the return looks like, right? For this inside of here. All we did was do this, right? So this is my return statement inside of this loop. So I'll just put the big loop here, right? That should be it. Just making sure. Okay, that's what mine looks like, all the way from line 38 to 46, right? Shouldn't break anything. Saved it, no break, everything looks good, awesome, right?
Hey, Joe, I had a question.
Sure.
Would you say that the handle, like using handle as a prefix, is kind of the convention for anything like a method you're passing as a prop, or is that just preference, or would you see that a lot in React code?
You're going to see handle a lot as the convention. So handles, obviously, if I'm passing a method down, right, methods are meant to be executed, right? And if methods are meant to be executed by a child thing, then something needs to initiate that. There needs to be an event that executes the thing, right? Sometimes some of those methods aren't the ones that are actually bound to the click event or are immediately being clicked. We might have a method that has other sub-methods inside of it that are helping with the processing, right? Think of it like one function that's called handle click, but there's a bunch of little functions that are like, hey, grab the data, do the thing to the data. Oh, return the thing, splice the thing, do the other thing, right? Those are kind of helper methods. They're not directly associated with the click or the submit or the event, but they are supporting that thing, right? So the handle is for the direct clicking, submitting, or the event, handle mouse over, handle key up, and other methods that don't necessarily bind themselves to that are just like, add me to the thing, do the thing, right? If I had to refactor this, I probably would do add to cart and call that handle add to cart. Like my writing would have done that because it's a direct relationship. That's what's doing the thing. That's what's being executed. So this is the way the lecture's right now. So we're following what's here, so we don't. I don't have to refactor it, but we're passing it down now, right? We're passing it down to all things. Now, all things has it. Awesome. Well, let's take a look at all things. I go to the all things. Well, here's our all things, right? So you're going to have a few things here, the two things that we're going to be passing in, like we see the name and the price, right? So if I go back to just the app, I would see the name and the price. This is it right here, right? Name and the price, easy enough. We're going to go back here. And now that we have the name and the price, let's take a look and see what we have to add. Well, we have to add this particular method. So let me explain this because this is a little bit new. We've seen on clicks, but this is a different thing. Okay, so we want to call this function on click. That's what we want to do. Now, when we do this, if we were to add just parens, now we've been passing things down like, I'm just going to go back to app. We passed down add card. If I was to do like this dot add card parens, that's an immediate execution. There is no pause gap there. Like the minute this thing gets processed, it's like, run the thing. And you're like, but they haven't even clicked yet. I don't care, run the thing. Because you told me to run the thing. The parens are an immediate execution of a function. There's no pausing it. Right? Without the parens means pass it down. Like I'm just passing down the function. You run it whenever you want to run it. I don't care when you run it, right? So we need a pause mechanism for that, okay? So on the LI over here, we are going to add, so I'm going to go down here. I'm going to do this. Once again, it's inside of the LI that I'm adding this click event. So if I have multiple properties, I want them kind of stacked up. We could probably put this as one line. I like doing it like this. Just make sure, you know, you have the closing, the opening and the closing for the LI. That's key. All I did was go down. We're going to say on click, right? That's the event, okay? Uppercase C is equal to curly braces, always curly braces, right? We're going to do an anonymous function, and we're going to say this dot props dot handle, what is it, handle add, and we are going to pass into that handle add. What are we passing in? This dot props dot handle add product. This dot props dot product. Okay, that's what we're passing in. Okay, so here's the full LI as I have it. I'm going to make sure I'm going to save it. Make sure I didn't break anything. What I love about React is like you fat finger something, React's like, boop, it's broken, can't move on. Got to get done just that way. Boom. Okay? Click event. Sweet. Now that this thing is working and we have a click event, right, we should be able to click on this thing now. Look. I click on the thing and I get all this data. This was the data coming from the console log that I ran before. So I'm just going to pull this up, give you a moment, run it, you know, let me know. Do you see that information? All right? Here is the add to cart. This is what I had to add to cart. Okay? If anybody wants the exact thing that I have for add to cart, I'll Slack it out. I put my notes in there. Again, I'm going to push this up later. The notes will be there. Okay? And what we see here is that this was the first. This is this. And you see that it's app. So when Christian was like, yes, it's the app. It is the app. It is the app. This is the app. It has everything that it tells it that is React. It's got, hey, what's your name? And your name. It has a method called add to cart. It's got, hey, it doesn't have any props. It's got state. Here's the state. We can see it, right? Okay. And this information here, props and state, right? This information is also information that we can see, and I know Jerica showed it yesterday. When we installed that little React plugin, if I click on React and I take a look at app, which it defaults to, I will have what's in my state. Here's my state. Look, my cart has the thing I clicked on. It's got an Allen wrench. Awesome. Well, what if I click on a banana? Man, I got a banana, and it's full of potassium. All right. So what we're seeing,
Joe,
yeah.
Real quick, sorry to interrupt you. I'm getting unexpected token expected to. I guess it's expecting a spread operator on the handle add this dot add to cart. Is there a particular reason you think that would happen?
The spread operator here. Did you copy and paste this? Right here.
I didn't even copy and paste. Yeah, I just thought maybe it was like something that either I did wrong, not necessarily a syntax error.
The only thing that I can think of, I'm going to try to reproduce it just based on maybe what maybe what I know, unexpected token. I'm just seeing if I can reproduce it. I don't see it. I'm thinking maybe the spread operator here. Maybe there's an extra dot. Let me just say. I don't know. I'm just going to assume maybe it's an extra dot. Now it's just telling me this. Yeah.
Okay.
We can take a look. If you want, we can take a look. But just try copy and pasting this.
Yeah, I'm going to take the...
Let me know if it solves it. If it solves it, then you can like undo it, comment out your code, repaste my code, and we can go back at some point in time and look at your code. Just do that. I want to make sure that you are up to speed there.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
Why do you pass some props into the constructor and super at the app level? What is it? Where is it inheriting props from?
Oh, so you know how components are nested inside of each other, right? Didn't yesterday Jerica? Where did Jerica put state in yesterday's application? Does anybody remember? It was in 2 places, I believe. I believe it was in 2 places. Was it in
She put it in the app, and then she put it in one of the children as well.
Ah, okay. So that means that the child has state, and the child can accept props, right?
Right.
So at any point in time, any one of these child components can accept things. Now, in essence, I could literally, right here, if I wanted to, I could pass app something right now. So are we here? Yeah, here's the export defaults. I would have to go to index in order to do that because it's index that is passing it. But inside index, once again, I want to go on a tangent, but I want you to see that this thing could accept the parameter. I could do, I don't know, const word is equal to, just to show you, hello. And here I could pass this thing a prop and say, hey, word is equal to word. Shouldn't break anything. Everything looks like it'll work. And if I go here, look at app now, it has a prop because a prop was passed to the thing. Because it's the top level app, maybe or maybe not, it'll get something. I don't know. Maybe we need to pass data into the top level app so that that data can be then transitioned down to the child elements. But at any point in time, any component can have a prop if it's been passed down, right? And as a child, there's a solid chance that as a child element, you are being passed props, right? That's why you're a child, so I can give you something to like render. Most of the time that is, okay?
Right, that makes sense. I guess my question was more along the lines of why would you pass it to the top level parent?
Well, maybe I have some data that I want to kick my app off with that it's like predefined data. And I'm like, I'm just going to give it to my app and then my app can then pass it down, right? Something like that. That's the best that I could think of. Maybe there's some just start initial data that I could pass down. Instead of what we've been doing is like importing data into our app, right? And then using that data. We did that yesterday. I believe we did that again today. This is just another way of doing it. I could have, right, in app has access to products. Where is products coming from?
It's from your data.js.
Yeah. So I could have passed in data this way, and this is a good way of doing it. No one's saying it. I could move this data import into index, and in index, I could pass down products as a prop. They would have achieved essentially the same thing. I'm trying to think of a use case for either or, but they both would suffice to do what we're looking to do. And what we're looking to do is to get products into apps so it has access to it, right? That's our ultimate goal.
Right. So is it just best practice then to always put props in your constructor and super just in case?
Yeah, I think also here, in the constructor only if you want to have state. If we didn't have state in our app, we do not need constructor. We do not. We wouldn't need it. Okay, it's only needed because of state. And when I taught React the first time, we did just a class with no constructor, and we were rendering stuff just fine. So this constructor is not needed unless you're using state. Okay. And with the new like Babel, we could actually just reference state without the constructor, and like Babel under the hood is like wrapping it up in a constructor without us even doing it. Okay, I'm not going to walk down that road, but there's articles like where it'll show you. I spoke about an article with long live the constructor is dead. I kind of showed it to you, but I didn't go into the details. That article explains it more. Okay, does that help? Let me make sure I'm kind of like.
Yeah, it helps. Are we doing AJAX calls at some point?
No, we're doing AJAX calls in the afternoon.
Oh, okay, excellent.
Yeah.
'Cause I could see like if you were doing like an AJAX call and index, then you could pass it through as a prop to.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, and that's going to be the ultimate goal, right? Pass the thing. This is just us having starting data. It's like, if the data needs to be here, why don't I just import it there instead of passing it down as a prop? Like, do you need to do that? It's just structure. Here I can see what I'm importing.
Okay, thank you.
Sweet. Awesome. All right, so now that we know, now I'm going to do this. I'm going to show you, here. This was the ultimate goal, right? I showed you that when we clicked on something, we had all this information here, right? I'm going to go back in just to demo, and I am going to unbind this thing. I want you to see what happens, what the output is if I unbind it. Okay? I'm going to save it. Does it break? Doesn't break yet, but when I do this, boop, we get a bunch of errors, and we're not getting it's just saying this is this, and it's saying that it's product. So let me go back in here because this is this, and it's saying like, hey, your product now, and this is add to cart and knows what you're adding. It doesn't have the context of this that we were looking for. So when I did, like, how does it know that it's product? It's kind of weird, right? How did it know that it was product? Like, where's that coming from? It knows that you're here and you have a Allen wrench. It knows what you are. So the context of this right now is like the thing itself. And it's like, hey, you're add to cart and you're this product. I don't know about any further extension. I did think it was going to come back as undefined. I didn't think it would come back as the product and handle add, right? Because it looks like two keys. And then I have to ask myself, where are those keys coming from, right? Just so that we know what would happen, right? So I'm going to go back here, get rid of this, go back in action, save it. Love when React works. Okay, so now that we have this, okay, what do we got to do now? Well, we need to somehow get the shopping cart, right? We need to pass that in the cart to the actual shopping cart, right? If I just take a look at shopping cart here, it really isn't outputting anything. And if it's going to output stuff, it's going to output individual products, just like the add to things is doing, right? So they both need to be kind of very similar in what they're doing. But in order for this thing to output stuff, it needs to be given the stuff it needs to be output, right? Just like if I go back in an app and I take a look at all things, well, all things is getting products. Cool. Hey, if you give me products, right? I mean, we're looping over the products, mapping and creating individual all things. Cool. And then in all things, it has the individual things. It's LIs, right? So my shopping cart wants to do the same thing. It wants to be given things and have things to shop. So we need to pass that too. Here's my shopping cart, and we need to pass it. Once again, I'm going to go to the next line because I like to have these on separate lines. And I'm going to say cart passing down this dot state dot cart. Okay. And once again, this is what? What do we call this? Flint, what is that called? What are we passing down? I
have no idea.
Okay. This is called what? Pooja, what's it called? A
property, props.
Prop, right? We're passing down a prop. A prop is what looks like some sort of variable that's equal to something. That's a property. We're giving to shopping cart. Awesome. So now shopping cart should have the thing, right? It should have an array of things, right? Whatever in the array. All right, well, that means shopping cart's like, hey, I would really like to output this array of things. Okay, and hey, I can output LIs myself. Like, I'm my own thing and I can output the LIs. I don't need you doing it up there. Like, give me this stuff and I'll control it. I'll manage it. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. We have our shopping cart. Here's the two lines. We're going to be doing this line here, which is really, let's take in our props, which is now the cart. I would like to map over this thing, okay? Because I'm mapping over an array of things, I need the thing, and I need its index, okay? It's fat arrow. Looks pretty good. It's because we're not returning anything. You see this error? It's because we're not returning anything. So it needs to return something. Okay. Awesome. See how the error kind of went to the next line. And hey, what do you want to return? Well, I'd like to return an LI where the key is equal to index. Okay. And the item, yeah, let's grab its name. I want my users to see exactly what it is that you sent out. You don't necessarily always need to use the index as the key. The key could be anything. I could have concatenated and been like index plus the item name. I could have just said name. It doesn't have to be index. We could have said name. That should work. Item.name. Oh, I'm sorry, not name, item.name. Okay, you don't want to send the object down there, right? I don't want to bound to an object. I want a property, like a primitive value, like a number or a string to be. It could be either. I'm not going to do this. I'm just showing you that it could be anything, but I'm going to go back to the index. Okay, once we confirm everything works, we can change it if we want. I'm going to go back here. Everything looks pretty solid, right? So I'm going to go here. Here is what I put. Get that out. Bum, bum, bum. There you go. There we go. Sweet. Confirm there's no errors. Confirm there's no issues. Everything looks good. Confirm also that when you click on it, so my code, I could already tell, has a little extra caret here, right? So my code, there's an extra caret someplace that needs to go.
You
and
did
that
it
extra,
in between the...
right there.
Yeah.
Good eye. So anyone who just copied that is going to have the same thing. So I'm going to go edit this code, make sure I got rid of it. Didn't break it. It's just like, I don't know, you want an extra caret, I'll give you an extra caret. I don't care, right? Everything we click on goes to the very top of the list. Clicking on React, we can then examine, hey, here's our cart, here's our products, here's our cart, right? Easy enough. That's not too hard, right?
So index, we're in the shopping cart JS file, and we're saying that we're going to use a property, we're going to refer to it as index. Where exactly is that coming from?
Index?
Yeah, like, do we get that when we do the map?
Yeah.
Cart?
Yeah, so if I console log inside map, and I'm going to say, give me the item and its index. So in a map, the construct of a map is to provide you access to the element with every iteration. The information about the thing in the array is this, the thing and its index position. Those two things are relevant when you're looking through things. Like knowing its index position can be helpful when looping through something. When you loop through something, I don't know, 95% of the time, you want to grab the thing that you're looping through, right? So if we take a look at the console, let's see, did I save this? My shopping cart, so I have to do that. So we produce inside map, and look what we have here. Inside map is producing the name. Where's the index? Oh, here's the index. Okay, if I do it again, Here's the index. Because the array, this array, only has two things. This is the first thing, this is the second thing. If I go even to the last thing here, it doesn't matter because this is the array that we're doing. 0, 1, and 2. Cool? You can also, just as a map, just so that you also know, I can actually pass in the array itself. So I'm just going to pass in the array, just so that you know the 3 parameters for map filter for each map and filter is the item, the index of the element's position in the array, and the actual array itself. Okay? Here's the item, here's its index, and here's the array itself. Okay? I click on another one. Here's the item I just clicked on, here's its position, here's the array itself. Okay? I don't really have a lot of use cases for passing in the array itself. I just know it does. I've seen some algorithms where you do solve it using that. Off the top of my head, I don't really have that solution or problem set on hand.
I'm just trying to think about like passing things around and referring to them later. Like, do I want to pass in the original index from app down to the shopping cart? Would that be a better way to do it, or is it better just to do it inside the shopping cart? Like if I ever wanted to do something when I'm like sending information back,
yeah,
I don't know.
So I mean, I get you, because at least I'm trying to make sure I understand, because in the app, let's walk through this. App has this reproducible thing called all things, right? It's a component that is in a looping construct. So that tells me that that component is meant to be reproduced 1,000,000 times. Give it some data and it's like a list item thing, right? It's not like a header or a footer that should just be once on the page. This is something that's like going to take an array of data and produce a consistent element based on the data. Okay? They're doing it here in app. But when we get to shopping cart, it's like, well, why is shopping cart spinning off these LIs all by itself? Why didn't we do what was done in app? We could have done the same thing in app. If my shopping cart was constructed the same way as all things, we could have done the same thing, and it kind of really is the same thing, right? It's an LI, right? My shopping cart is producing LIs. They just moved it in there to show you that there's 2 places where you can do the looping depending on what you're looking to do. That's really all this is. It's not meant to like confuse you, like, why are they looping there when they looped up here? And passing down the index here, we're not passing the index, we're actually passing the array. The array has the index. So my shopping cart has been given the entire array, okay? And that's what it's doing, the looping and producing the LIs, okay? Hope that makes sense. Okay. So are we feeling pretty good about this? I mean, once again, I'm trying to take it slow, get as many people involved in answering some of these questions so that we all have a handle on what's happening instead of just typing stuff. Awesome. So why don't we take a break? I feel like break time, right? Let's take a 10-minute break. It's 12:34. Let's go to break. Come back at 12:44. Boink. All right. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to push what I have in case anyone's like, mine's off, mine's not working. You'll have a reference point. Okay, git status. Boom, lots of good stuff. Git add, git commit, pushing products. Code along. I'm going to do a git pull just in case Target might have pushed something up. Oh, look, WQ, boink, git push. There we go. Just pushed it up, okay? Still need to start my server. Boop, boop, boop. Now it's off. Should go back to this. I don't think it'll, should. Let's see. It's going to give me the whole, poor Jammy. Yeah, we're right back. Awesome. Cool. All right. So what I want to do, I want to get this done, not as quick as possible, but I want to get you off into lab, right? Some of the feedback is, want more lab time. I want you to have more lab time. Lab time is needed. So what I want to do is use this particular app because the other two are lifting states and deleting an item. And in all honesty, it's kind of extending what we just did, the same thing, creating like a favorites list, pushing something into the favorites list, and then deleting something from the favorites list. To go through these two is going to take us the rest of the lecture. There would be little to no lab time. And I don't want that. I want lab time. What I think is we can do together, we can walk through this app and just build out the delete. Right? I think a lot of the times, once again, it's different. Remote's different than the on-site, and they're just different formats. A lot of times when I'm coding stuff on-site, I don't reference the lecture. I just build. Sometimes we build things. I build an app that they don't even have a lecture for, which forces everyone to kind of pay attention. Because sometimes when the code's there, it's just like, I'm just going to go ahead. I'm going to see. I'm going to do. And then, you know, you do, you learn, right? I mean, you feel good because you built something. But can we add it together without there being any lecture note for this particular one, right? The goal is this, okay? The goal is to remove one of these things. In all honesty, when you see it unfold before your eyes, you're going to be like, this really isn't all that hard, okay? Really not that hard, okay? So what I want is this. We want to remove something from the cart. So I'm going to get rid of this real quick. Try to get rid of the code. I tested this like in the 10 minutes. I tested it and I got it working in like 10 minutes. So I know that we can do this. It's going to take a little longer, only because we're going to walk through it. But I would like, let me see, Jacob. Jacob, you want to help us remove stuff, don't you? Yes, you do, Jacob. Yes, you do. Where would I start if I wanted to remove something? What's your thought process?
Ooh, I don't know. I guess you'd have to have it in the app.js.
Cool. I like that. Okay.
Probably kind of where you have it, obviously, because I saw it there above render. So I guess you'd be creating it because it's not like render is like part of it. So you have to create it and probably to bind it. And that's just kind of my thought.
No, I like it. It's a thought process. It's similar to what we just did. So if we had to do this, think about what we just did. What did we just do? Jeremy, what did we just do? I'll bounce around. Jeremy, what did we just do before? What was the first step that we did to like add something to the cart?
We had to first like set the state and like put it up to there. Is that what you mean?
Okay, that was the first thing when we added a cart, right? I mean, we already have the cart array up there, so we don't really need to create another cart. We need to remove something from the cart, correct?
Yeah.
What was the next thing that we did when we went through this process of adding to the cart? What did we create second?
We created a variable that we could send to the shopping cart.
Okay.
So that's what it was.
So the two steps that we actually did before we sent anything down was to create what here? It's all happening on lines 28 and above are the two things that we did or created before we did anything else. So let's see. Christian, what do you think? What do you think should be the first step? I want to create some pseudocode so we walk through this process.
Well, it looks like we probably want to create another function.
Correct. So create the, I don't know, remove item, I don't know, remove cart item maybe, right? I'm just throwing it out there. Create the remove cart item method, right? Sound good? Exactly where you were going, right? Okay. What did we do next in this process before we passed anything down? I'm just kind of going through the steps that we just did.
We bound it.
Yeah, we bound it, right? We made the assumption that, hey, we're going to be using this dot set state to do something, so let's bind it. I'm going to go back here and add some additional pseudocode to the method. I'm just kind of walking us through what we originally did because we just did that. So bind the method, the remove cart item method in the constructor, right? Awesome. So we would do those two steps. Cool? What's the next thing that we would have done? And I'm just going to say, let's assume we just put a click event in the remove cart items. So we know that it's click. Let's get it to where it needs to get to, right? Again, no one's on their cameras. I don't know if anyone's there. You're just like almost there. Is it just me? I just see like big blocks in front of everyone's faces. So I don't really know.
Joe, would you want to add it as a prop to my shopping cart?
Sweet. Yes. Look at that. Thank you, Sarah. So yes, add the method or pass the method. Pass the method down as a prop to what? My shopping cart, right? Awesome. Say we're in my shopping cart now. What do we do now? I'm in the my shopping cart.
We would want to take the current shopping cart and we would want to take out that specific thing.
That's going to happen here, though. We will get to that here. Okay? Let me ask you a question, Jeremy. Have I executed the function yet?
No. You'd want to call the function. You'd say, like, this item, go remove item from cart.
Okay. So if I want to call the function, how do I initiate calling the function itself? How would I do that? CJ. I'm just going to bounce around. CJ, how would I call the function inside my shopping cart?
Inside the cart, you'd probably call it by doing an anonymous method and then, or anonymous function, and then doing this dot props dot whatever name you passed it down as the prop.
Okay. I like where you're going. You took me to the anonymous method, but there's something just before the anonymous method.
Like set it to a event, like an on click or something.
Right. You got to click on the thing. So there has to be an on click where we then do the anonymous, right? So here I pass the method down as a prop to my shopping cart, and then I would do something like attach or add an on click event to the item, right? That calls the remove cart item method, right? Whatever the naming convention that it was used to pass down. We might call it handle method, right? Or handle delete. We're going to follow that same context, right? What do we need to pass this thing? Just think. I'm removing something from the array. What's the most efficient way to remove something from the array? What if I knew about this thing about it in the array, I could remove it immediately, kind of.
The index.
The index, right? I mean, if I know the name of it, I still have to get the index before I can remove it, right? So why don't we just grab the index? Don't we already have the index? Isn't in my shopping cart, doesn't it have the index? I'm thinking it already has the index. So there's no reason to look for the thing. We already have the index. So here I would say pass the index of the item to remove cart item when it's called. Okay? So again, just working through the pseudocode. This looks pretty solid so far. Okay? What I want to do is get this down, and then we'll go to remove cart, and we'll work through the logic of actually removing it, right? At that point in time, we just landed right inside the remove cart item. Okay? Awesome. Let's walk through this process. We have the pseudocode. This is what I think is going to be solid pseudocode, right? So let me just do this. I know this is kind of like a different approach, but really I think us walking through something together and doing it, where we work through the process, we work through the steps, is going to be more efficient than just rebuilding the same thing, right? This gets you thinking. So let's go ahead and work through that first step. Create the remove cart item method. Okay, pretty sweet. Now, something tells me too, if I'm going to be passing the index of this thing at some point in time, right? I need the index in here because it's in here that we will be removing the item at some point, right? We're not doing it just yet, but we will. If we're going to do that and we pass the index, I'm going to put the index in here. We will be using it. Promise. What I want to do right now is just console log in here. This is index from remove cart item index. Okay? Nothing's going to happen just yet. All we're doing is this. This is our basic approach right now to get the first thing done. Pretty much what we did the last time. Add cart, console log, didn't add any state. This is all we're doing. I'm going to go to the second thing here, right? Just going to bind the remove cart item method in the constructor, right? Should be, you know, that's a 10-second thing. This dot remove cart item is equal to this dot remove cart item dot bind this. That's it. Check. Right? Save it. My function broken? What happened here? All right. Everything seems to be working still, right? No errors. Once again, I'm going to confirm that there's no errors along this process. Okay? So we bound this thing. Okay? Now we can have the context of this when we need the context of this. We don't need it just right now. Okay? Pass the method down as a prop to my shopping cart. Here's my shopping cart. I'm going to follow this same kind of syntax here. Handle add, handle remove. What's it going to equal? This dot remove cart item. I'm not trying to trip you up. We're following the same syntactical pattern here. Okay? Nothing's broken. Everything seems to work. Here it is. Oh, let me got to add my save it. Awesome. Test it. Make sure you don't get any errors. No errors, no errors. Awesome. Once again, if you do error out, just copy paste for now. That doesn't work. We'll stop and help. Promise. Right? I feel like we are on fire. It's exciting. Sometimes, you know, building something from scratch and live coding stuff can be exciting. If you know how to do it, it's pretty exciting to get it done. And if you're following the pattern, it's really intuitive. It's like we do the thing. We did the thing to add. We did the thing to remove. It's not like, okay. So I'm in my shopping cart. So I need to add a remove here, right? How should we do that? Ideas. Now I'm asking for ideas. Anybody have an idea?
Target the index so that it can be removed directly.
Okay, so we need to add a click event. So I suppose the question is, do we want to prompt the user with an X to click, or do we just want to click on the item and removes it? The easier of the two would just be to have the thing clickable, correct? What do you think?
Yes, but let's put a button.
You want to go all out and put a button. Of course you want to go out.
Put the X.
Putting a button or putting anything here requires what now? Now remember, the reason why I was opting for option 1, Lauren, was because if we want to add another element here, what does that require? How many things can you return? What? Yeah, you can't return multiple elements. I cannot, don't type this because this is not the route. I can't put a button there like that. I would have to add more HTML. I'd have to surround this stuff and maybe a div. Like I'd have to do this because you can only return one parent element with as many child elements. And I don't really want to like add more stuff than we need. But I like it, Lauren.
No, I know, but can't we just put it inside the LI?
I mean, we could put a button inside the LI. We could, right?
Wouldn't we want it to be generated with our like with the map function?
Say that one more time.
Wouldn't we want to set it up to where the item is generated alongside of like an X to delete it?
No, we could, yeah.
The cart.
We could do that. Once again, I just think that's going to take just a few minutes longer, and I just want to kind of press through. I would opt to do that. That's exactly what I was doing, but it's just more code. So I'm going to opt with the easiest solution. Just as easy as we clicked on something, clicking on here should remove it. All right? Great idea, Lauren. Wish we had time. We're going to go with this easier one. All right? So what we're going to do is do an on-click here is equal to curly braces, right? Now, what I'm going to do here is, once again, remember how I don't like having all these things strung out. So I'm going to go to another line, and end the LI. That's going to be it. We're going to finish our on-click because it is screaming at me. The on-click's like, what are you doing? Fat arrow, this dot props dot handle remove, right? And we are going to pass it the index of the element. Index of the element. Cool? That's all I did. Here's the LI, complete LI. Okay, that's all. Moved it to another line. On click. Call the thing that was passed down, give it the thing, and then it gets executed in the context of the app. This method that we pass down gets executed inside of app. It doesn't get executed here. It actually goes up to app and like, hey, where is this function living? Oh, it's living in the app. Well, then we better go up to the app and like execute it up there because only app really knows what to do with this thing. Okay? At this point in time, it would just be a matter of, you know how we console log this? Hey, let's just take a look. Does it work? Look at that. Look at that. It's doing it. Okay, now, oh, I'm sorry, it's not doing it. It's here. Right? Click on it now. Oops, that was my bad. You got to add something, and then when you click on it, you'll see this. You should see that message. Okay? Confirm. All is working as planned.
Very evil planning.
Where are you going with that, Aaron? Because I'm not really sure.
Diabolical. That was the word I was looking for.
Oh, yes. Once again, this is live coding here. No lecture to follow. We got to make sure we follow our plan to the T. Okay? This keeps everyone on their toes. I always like doing the live coding where there's nothing to look at, but you follow or you don't follow and you watch and you take notes. You make the decision on what you want to do. We pass it up. It's all working as planned. You can see the index number, right? Right, Joe? I see the index number. Sweet. All right. So now we're into this. Remember I said we're going to go back to the remove card item method? I'm writing my pseudocode, right? I'm trying to write good pseudocode. I'm even just going to put this here as uppercase, right? Pass. I'm just trying to write it as I would think it out. Okay, so Christian, you had an idea if we had the index. How do I remove something from an array? Do you know how to do that? Just off the top of your head? How to wing it?
You could do splice.
Sweet, I love it. Splice is how you splice something from an array. And you do it based on its index, and it's out of the array. Cool. I'm going to go write our pseudocode in order to get this done. So what I'm going to do here is create a new array that is a replica of cart of, I'm saying this dot state dot cart. Remember, we cannot mutate at all state. I'm going to make a replica of the cart array that's in state. I'm going to show you how to do this. You haven't seen this. I'm going to show you how to do this. Standard way of doing it. Okay? And I'm going to say here, using slice, just because I know the method. All right, what's the second step that I want to do here? Okay, I'm going to put here like little lines here. What should we do now? If I have a duplicate of it, what do we do now? Molly, what do we do? Now that I have a duplicate of the array, what should we do?
You could do set state, or the stat set state, and then the cart would equal the whatever you're slicing.
Sweet. I like what you're doing. Now, Christian, does slice and splice do the same thing?
Cool.
Okay.
Wait, so say that again, I'm sorry.
Does splice and slice do the same thing?
No. So splice is actually going to return the array of basically what was removed. It's not going to mutate the original, it just removes, or it returns what was removed from the original array, basically.
Okay. And what does slice do here? Anyone know what slice does?
Doesn't it just remove it from the array?
Slice, in this instance, slice would remove elements from an array but not mutate it and return back those elements. Splice is a mutator method. It does mutate the array itself, Christian. Splice and slice are different. Slice can be used to create a replica of something. And this is what I mean. If I had let array A and B, like array is equal to, right? This is annoying. Like, how do I get that? There, right? If I did this, and I do R, I have it. If I do R, if I do let new array is equal to R dot slice, new array is a replica pointing to two different things in memory. Remember, arrays are references to something. Okay, these are two separate things now. These aren't the same thing. Okay, so now if I was to do new array dot splice, and I said grab the thing at the 0 position and grab the first thing, and I do new array, guess what? Mutated, right? Ripped it right out of there. Splice is a mutator. Slice is something else. Slice right here, when I did array, if I do array, it's still the same thing. It wouldn't have done anything. Even if I did array dot slice, I think start at the 0 and go to the first, array is not mutated. That's the difference, okay? Just trying to point it out. The reason why we're choosing these methods, okay? So slice is going to replicate it, and that's why I put here replicate, and then use splice to remove the element from the array based on its index, right? And then Molly, you were right on the last step. What was the last step?
Setting the state and mutating the cart with whatever the result of splice was.
Yes, correct. So set state to the new array, right, that we just spliced, to the spliced array. That make sense? That's our pseudocode. Working through it. Feel like it's good. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. I'm going to follow the first step here. Create a new array that is a replica of the thing in state. So I'm going to say let new array equal to this dot state dot cart dot slice. Okay? That's all it is. If I console log what that is, it'll come back as a duplicate array. So let me just send that out. Okay? That's a duplicate. This would also be, if I had to add additional methods to the list that Jeremy put out, slice and splice may have been on there. I don't know. But those two should be two things you do know how to do. The second thing is use splice to remove the element from the array based on its index. Cool. So how about new array dot splice index? Grab the thing at the first position. Okay. It's pretty cool so far. I think this is going to work. Really hope it does. That's what I did. Because it's a mutator, it ripped it out. New array no longer has that thing. We mutated it. Okay? And then the last step is really just set state to that spliced array. I'm going to get rid of this and say, all right, this dot set state part is equal to new array. It should work, I'm thinking. I'm going to test it out. Let me just test it out before. Oh, man, look at that. Boom, boom, boom. Sweet. Sweet. It's fun when it works. We've done these code-alongs on the fly sometimes. They don't always work as I expected to work. So I'm pretty happy that this thing is doing everything that we want it to do. All right?
Hey, Joe, can you explain the index 1 thing? Like, how does it know which specific item to delete?
Okay, so the way splice works, right? Splice says, what's the position of the element that you want to splice? That's the question, right? And think of it like a movie. I always think of splice as a movie. I take a movie and I'm going to either splice something into the movie or splice something out of the reel of film, right? So if you said, hey, I want you to splice this movie, the first question I would be like, all right, where in the movie do you want me to splice it? Like, tell me the exact section in the movie. That would be the index. And then the next question I would ask is, how much do you want me to remove? Well, I just want you to remove that one clip. 1. Oh, do you want me to remove 2 clips? 2. Start at the thing and remove starting from that position. That is what splice does. It goes into the array, goes to that position, then says, I'm going to start here, and you want me to remove the first thing that I find? Well, that's the thing that I landed on. That's what I'm going to remove.
And
Okay.
slice completely removes it, like once you've found that specific thing?
Well, if we're not past an index, then it won't work because it's based on the index. So splice needs to know the position of the element. We're not doing it based on the name of the element, like using something like index of, we gave it a name and it returned back an index, right? We're telling it, hey, Mr. Array, at this position, I'm going to give you a position. You're going to go to that position. And then at that position, you are going to remove the first thing that you find sitting at that position. That's what this says.
Any particular reason, Joe, you didn't put 0 for the index?
Because we want to tell it what we want to remove. Index here represents the element's position in the index. So look, as I add things to this, right? What's the element's position here in the array? What's its index?
Five.
Right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in order for me to splice that array and remove the element at the 5th position, you have to tell me what position to start at. So you would say, hey, Mr. Splice, go to the 5th position. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to index at 5. Sweet, I'm there. What do you want me to do? How many things you want me to remove? And Splice is like, just one. Cool, I'll remove the thing that's there. And so it removes this thing.
So if you had 0 in that first part, it would just take out the first item in the array every time instead of the specific item you're clicking on?
You know what? I'm going to take a look because I've never used position 0. I'm not even sure that position 0 is going to work. It doesn't work because you're not telling it what to remove or how many things to remove. You're just like, don't remove anything.
So
Like,
index is essentially the actual position, whereas 1 is, you're kind of saying like one item.
Correct. So I'll say here, index here is where to start, and 1 is how many things to remove starting at that index. Okay? If I started at 0 and I said go to the end of the array, it would remove everything. It would be like remove, start here and just keep going. Or I'm sorry, I'd have to tell it how many things I want. Splice isn't just used to remove. Splice can be used to add things to an array. Splice is a mutator method for adding and removing things from an array. Okay? You can easily find that out on like W3. So if I was like splice in JavaScript, it's going to take me to like W3 schools. Let me see. I don't really, yeah, W3 schools, you can see I've gone to it like a dozen times. And here, with Splice, you can actually inject things into an array. Look at this. There's banana, orange, apple, and mango. And they're saying go to position 2, don't remove anything, but put lemon and kiwi in there. So watch. Lemon and kiwi just got shammed it right in there. Splice can remove and Splice can add. I don't want to get too far down what Splice is doing. You can look at it. You have context. You can clearly go and look and see what the thing is doing, right? I'm really interested in us understanding the process here. What happened during all of this? Does this pseudocode truly make sense? Did it capture everything we were trying to do? Anybody? Anybody want to eeny, meeny, miny, moe?
Like I just instead of like making a new array and making a copy of it and then taking it out of the array and setting the cart equal to the new array, is there like just like a remove method where we could just take the cart and remove that index?
No.
Nope.
You have to know where to remove the thing from. Okay. There's multiple ways to do this too, and without, once again, I did it differently than that they have here. I'm going to show you another example. This is how they removed it in the lecture. I personally don't necessarily like that way. I would not opt to do it that way. Okay? The way that I've done it, to me, has just been always more intuitive. Here, they're like, slice it starting at 0, grab all the way up to, but not including the index, and then grab everything in the array, starting at the next position plus like the index plus 1. So we're kind of like getting everything up to the thing that we want and then starting after the thing that we want and doing that. I don't really like that. To me, that's a lot of extra typing. I don't like this method. I think our method, if you look at our method, look at the way that we did it, and tell me if this, between these lines of code, so if I was to just remove this kind of pseudocode here, if I got rid of this, which to you seems maybe a little bit more intuitive, breaking down the steps? Which one? So here, maybe I'll go in here and I'll say, which one you prefer, right? I'm just going to put out prefer.
Like, couldn't we splice the cart then at that index?
Well, I mean, you could, but you can't splice this dot state. You can't edit state. You do not want to do this dot state dot cart dot splice it, because you are mutating state directly, and you do not want to do that. Okay, so here, I just put in here, which method do you prefer to splice? My way or that way? And once again, I'm preferable to either. You wouldn't hurt my feelings like, I want to do it the other way. It just seems so cool. Just seems like a lot of typing. You know, perhaps the lecture was meant to reinforce, the spread operator. Maybe it was meant to say, hey, here's an instance of splice that you could use. I've seen more instances of this than I have of that. And to me, this just makes more sense. I splice, I return back a full copy of the array, which is, once again, really cool to know that that's what that does. I splice the thing out and I set state. Really like straightforward, to me makes complete and utter sense. Okay? What other questions we got? I want to spend some time. Obviously, because it's 1:22, we didn't get lab time. It's my bad on that. I didn't realize that this, going in and explaining everything into this detail and trying to like elicit feedback from everyone and get more participation takes a lot more time, right? But I think there was the only way I can really gauge what everyone understands is to do that. Without that, I'm just banging through a lecture. I don't really understand or have full comprehension of everyone's understanding of what we're trying to do. Okay?
Joe, can I ask a question about
Sure,
the
this is all
lecture
about
way?
Sure.
So in that way, sorry, the way that you were just looking at.
Oh yeah. Okay, let me go back. Yes, right.
Is it just setting state in that set state? It's just setting the songs equal to everything before and everything after your index, right?
Correct. Okay. You're not mutating state either, right? Because slice doesn't mutate. Yeah. Slice returns back just those elements that you wanted, but does not mutate it. So in this instance, all you're saying is go into state and return back things, but don't mutate state in this instance. Mm-hmm. Okay? So that's perfectly fine to do. You could do that. But once again, I just think that's more typing, right? I only want to do this dot set states or run state once on the thing, not multiple times. That's not really what I want to do.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I was reading it correctly. I hadn't seen the spread operator as the first argument in an array before, so I was just curious.
No, but you have seen it as the second thing in the array, right?
Yeah, that's why I just wanted to make sure that I was reading it correctly.
Yeah, the spread operator works either way. Either you could set it as the first thing and it enumerates all the values in the array as the first position, or you could set it at as any point in time that you want to use the spread operator. It could even be between elements. I can have an array with like A, and B, first and last, and in the middle do a spread operator, or A and Z, and do a spread operator on an array that has everything from B to Y, and it would enumerate it, and I'd have a new array of the alphabet. Okay?
So, like, I guess some of the problems I have, I need to do more research into the methods and stuff and figure out what actually would alter the array and what wouldn't. Because I wouldn't know, and I'm just like, yeah, sure, like, take this thing out of there, that's cool. And then find out that I, like, broke it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sure.
Just so make sure I'm understanding this correctly, in your code, when we do this set state, we're setting like the cart is the new array, so it's just like setting it to empty again, right? Because we delete.
Well, it won't set it to. Well, it will be empty if it's all empty, right?
Right.
Yeah. Right now, it's setting it to 3 things, 2 things, 1 thing, and no things.
New array is everything but the thing that you just took out.
Correct. Yes. New array is the old array without the thing that you just told me to remove.
Right. So we're kind of pushing the new array up almost.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Once again, we're not like pushing it up. We're just resetting state.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I think when I'm pushing things up and down, I'm pushing props, or I'm passing props down, and I'm lifting state up when we took an element from down here and we brought up that value, and we're like, hey, you needed this value up here, so I'm kind of lifting up those values. Okay,
that makes sense.
Okay.
So I have an error for removing that. So I don't know what's going on.
Okay, I can take a look at it. I mean, we're going to go on break on lunch in just a minute, and I'll stay on, Young Sub. We can take a look at it. Cool? All right, I'm just going to, send out another code along, another sample. I just wanted to know, did you like the live code along? Did you find it more kind of interacting than just kind of following the lecture and just kind of like banging out what's in the notes and like having no as much interaction? I would have made it anonymous. Forgot to make it anonymous. If you didn't like it, that's fine. Once again, I want feedback. This is all about feedback. You're going to get another exit ticket today. Give me all your feedback. It's fine. It's good. Yeah, for a minute, Lauren, I was like, what are you doing? You don't be the one that says it.
No, I didn't read the numbers correctly.
Okay. I don't want, once again, I should have made it anonymous. I don't want to make anyone feel like I didn't like this thing. I like the notes. If you like it, that's cool. Like, your preference. I'm just trying to like shake things up again based on the feedback. The feedback seems like you want more of stuff. I gave you that other lecture. I gave you the React Films. Anybody who didn't want to do this could have done React Films and could have still been working on it and working through some issues. That's cool too. This is pretty fun. When you don't know what you're going to do and there's no notes and you have to write solid pseudocode to get there, that is really, truly kind of learning the process. And you're already at the point, you've worked with React enough times to understand what's happening. And now it's like, let's apply what's happening. Cool. Awesome. So let's go to lunch. I am going to see maybe after lunch we can work on the lab. I'm going to just take a look at the afternoon lecture and just see how it's all set up and see if we can fit in some lab time right afterwards. Because once again, I think lab time is key to you re-implementing or reinforcing these concepts. Awesome. So let's go to lunch. And we'll come back at 2:30. And Kyung-sub, if you want, you can stay on and show me your error. And I'll push the code up too. Let me do that too. Git status, git commits, or git add, commits. All right. Products completed. Boom. Up. Git pull. I don't know what's happening. Kerrigan must be doing something. Push. There we go. Done. I'll stop sharing. And Kyungsub, by all means, share your screen, and I will.
Yeah. To add, after edit
Okay.
or delete, it shows this error.
Shopping cart is return. Okay, so it says this.props.handle remove is not a function. So that tells me that you did not, or perhaps did not pass handle remove down. So go into app. You do have handle remove. Oh, because you put handle remove in the wrong place. You put it on the shopping cart.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, that's why. I mean, you see how it can be to troubleshoot because it's like it doesn't exist, and I'm like, all right, well, let me go back. And did you add it to the right thing? Now save it and go take a look. No, you don't have to move the index. Leave the index up there. Yeah, that's fine. Now test.
Oh, thank you.
It's all good. All right, sweet.
Thank you.
All right, guys. See you after lunch.